Welcome everyone. Good evening. I hope you're all well and you've had a good week and been nice and busy. We've got people watching already. I do apologise if my dog starts barking. She's in here with her puppies and she's a bit reactive to what's going on outside. So when the kids thunder around the house, she does get a bit grumpy with them. But I'll just mute as and when I need to. So we're here tonight to say hello to Vikki, and Vikki is the owner and founder of the Bubbly Paw, which is a pet grooming salon based in Kent. So welcome, Vikki.
Hi.
How are you?
Yes, fine, thank you. Very well.
You've had a busy day?
Yes, yeah, just the three today. I've kind of toned it down a little bit, but yeah, so just the three today, but three well-behaved ones.
Three well-behaved.
Sort of.
Sort of, that's good. And we've had a chat already, haven't we? I came over actually and popped in to say hello a few weeks ago, and we'll go over some of the lessons that you've learned in the last 3 weeks with your opening your pet groomers. But so just to introduce Vikki, you are brand new to the industry. You've been open for 3 weeks, is that right?
I'm in week 4.
Week 4?
4 now.
And there's been loads of lessons learned, good and bad, I should hope.
Yes, definitely.
So maybe we'll start off with, well, actually me and Vikki know each other, well, probably may have known each other, I suppose is probably a good way of saying it. We may have known each other at school. I've certainly did my A-levels at the same school that you were in. I think you were just a year ahead of us. And then you've actually got mutual friends, and you went to the same web designer that we use for our business. So there's some mutual connections there, wasn't there? And that's where we kind of got chatting, and I was lucky enough to come over and visit the other day. It was really nice to see your place. Very smart home salon you got there.
Thank you.
So maybe we'll start off with you just telling us how you started out and how you got into the pet grooming industry. What did you do before you became a pet groomer?
Okay, so my career has predominantly been in retail. So I've worked for Debenhams and Victoria's Secret for altogether the last 16 years. And then really, how long? 3 years ago, I got together with my partner. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have children, so we bought 2 dogs instead, as our surrogate children. And which apparently is way harder than kids. So I don't know what on earth I was thinking, but anyway. And yes, we got 2 dogs, and it was kind of obvious that my career with I worked at Lakeside. It was very late nights, weekends, bank holidays, you name it. My partner works 9 to 5, well, let's say 7 till 3 in the city. Nice. So you know, there was like 3 nights a week where I basically 3 days a week where I didn't see him. So we were also paying like £340 a month for a dog walker because we were both out all day. So it was, so it was kind of a conversation that started a long time ago around what could I possibly do to get out of my job, because I was starting to just despise it. I loved the job and I loved what I did, but retail's a very different place than when I started. And I started to despise what I was doing, and I was just counselling young people most of the time. That's all I was doing. So it was a conversation around what I could do working from home. So I dipped my toe into a couple of things whilst still working full time. Bill and I have had a conversation around how I attempted network marketing. And if anybody's been there, then well done. Because that's a tough gig to try and do, and it failed miserably. So gave that up. Had a little look at dog walking, but that wouldn't work out with having 2 dogs of my own. The numbers just didn't stack up. And then it kind of came down to dog grooming, and I said to Bill, if I'm honest, I don't actually know where it even came from. I think it was a suggestion of my partner, the fact that I spent a lot of time washing and bathing my own too, that it kind of made a bit of sense, really.
Yeah, and obviously we talked a little bit just before coming online, and you're employed, you're a manager, was that right? From yeah, you were managing a store at Lakeside. So you, like you were saying, you're counselling staff members, I suppose. And
Yeah.
was there quite a lot of pressure with figures and targets and COVID?
Yeah, massively. I mean, yeah, let's not even talk about COVID, but yeah, I mean, 100% retail's got so tough in the last, well, when I joined Victoria's Secret 8 years ago, it was in their heyday. They'd not long been in the UK. They thought they were going to be the next best thing. Pay was exceptional. So, you know, I did really well out of it, but they saw the tough times hit them quite hard because the reality of the fact that, you know, the Brits are very different to the Americans, you know, the market and everything else was very different. And obviously we've seen the tough times in just the economy full stop anyway. So yeah, constantly, you know, I was the store manager, so you take all the weight on your shoulders, and you know, it was a 24/7 job. Not that being self-employed isn't, as I've already learnt, but yeah, you know, even on my days off, you know, my WhatsApp group would be pinging constantly, etc., etc. So yeah, so it was a great career, but it was time for a change.
Yeah, and so I mean, I've come from employment into self-employed world, and I'm sure there's many people, I speak to a lot of people who are in the public sector or they're corporate, in the corporate sector, and they make that jump to becoming self-employed. What were the sort of considerations and concerns that you had around doing that? And did that stop you for a while? Did that put you off?
No, I wouldn't say it put me off. I think that the one big thing that worried me, still didn't put me off, but worried me, was COVID, because I wanted to get going ASAP. I really, really, really wanted to leave my job. And then COVID came along and put a stop to all of that. And I suppose for me, the only benefit of that was I got furloughed for a very, very long time. So not going to work was great. It suited me down to the ground. But unfortunately, I also wasn't able to go and do my qualification at the same time. So it was like a catch-22 situation. I've got all this time on my hands. I want to go and get this qualification. I could have done it really super quick, but they were closed down just like everywhere else was. So the frustration got to me massively. With regards to, you know, still doing it, no, there was never a doubt in my mind. It was just a case of how quickly we could do it. And obviously the biggest thing that we had to do was buy a house with somewhere to do it in. And that also got held up massively by COVID. So I felt like a brick wall was being put in front of me at every single turn. But, you know, we finally got there. And to be honest with you, when I reflect back now, it came around super, super quick, and I don't know what I was worried about.
So you strike me as the kind of person that once you got your mind set on something, that's it. You're going for it. Is that right? Or you know,
I'm quite impulsive.
Okay. Did you do any research around like what dog groomers earn, or did you go and visit any dog groomers or speak to anyone, or just like internet research, anything like that?
So I looked at in terms of our area, like how many dog groomers roughly there were in the area, although a lot of them I've learned since it's hard to find them, but the minute someone posts, "Oh, I need a dog groomer," like 55 people get tagged in it. So I'm like, right, okay, there's a lot more blooming people out there than I thought. But that was hard. And I looked at some websites of local people and prices and things like that. But no, to be honest with you, the first real bit of research was actually your group.
Right, okay.
By which point I'd pretty much already decided I was going to do it. And then kind of I had the bones, and your groups helped kind of put the meat on it, I suppose, because there's a lot of things that I've done as a result of conversations that I've seen on your group, of chats that I've had with you, of questions that I've asked other people. So yeah, no, like I said, I'm quite spontaneous, and when I decide I want to do something, it's like if I want to get a haircut, I want it today. I don't want it next week.
Go out and do it.
Yeah.
And so and this also meant that you were moving house as well. You decided to move house to find somewhere. So you decided that you were going to groom from home.
Yeah.
Before you done your course or during the course, or what?
So I knew I didn't want to start actually grooming from home until I'd kind of was at least in the back third of my course, and pretty much towards the end. And as it turned out, by the time I actually opened, I only had 2 days left of my course to complete, which actually I think for me is perfect, because I think in hindsight, if I had tried to do it any earlier, it would have been very much more challenging than what it already has been. So without giving it more away to later questions. So that was the goal. The goal was to kind of start grooming before my course ended. Now the original plan was, to maybe go part-time and do it a little bit, but that became quite apparent quite quickly that was just not going to work. It's just not conjunctive to what I did, and there was no way that I could get a part-time job doing what I was doing. And then it kind of didn't really make any sense. I'd be doing a part-time job, probably on minimum wage, and probably turning down customers in order to do a minimum wage job. So it made no sense. So in the end, me and my partner were sat out on the deck having a conversation, and in a not quite so polite way, he basically said, "Oh, but let's do it."
Just do it.
Just quit. Yeah. Just
quit. Wow.
Just quit.
What did that feel like?
Mixed emotions, I think, really. When I because I hadn't kept anything a secret from my employer. So my boss knew what my plan was. She knew what I was doing. I had a regular day off every week to go and do my grooming course. We'd talk about it every time she came to visit. Excuse me. So nothing was a shock to them. I didn't want it to be that way. I'm a very loyal person, although I don't know why. But I'm a very loyal person, so I was really upfront with them. So when I did come to hand my notice in, it didn't really feel like any great revelation. It was like, right, okay, the time's come, here you go. It was a bit sooner than they were expecting, I think, so that was a bit of a shock. But, I had to bite the bullet at some point and just go for it. My biggest concern was that my hydro bath was still on back order. and I'd like, okay, now I've quit my job, I've got an opening date and I don't have a bath.
Got a hose in the garden.
Yeah, and the first dogs I had was a Labradoodle and a Springerdoodle, and I was like, oh, good Lord, how am I going to bath these guys? But it all turned out okay in the end.
Yeah, a bit of wing and a prayer, but it always works out, doesn't it?
And lots of phone calls followed up by lots of emails. And poor Michelle at Red Cape knows me by name.
Probably recognises his number and decides not to answer.
Yeah, weekly phone call. Hi, Michelle, how are we doing?
How's that bath coming along?
Yeah, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet?
So you are level 3 OCN qualified, is that right?
I will be. I'm actually going in for my last half a day tomorrow just to complete some bookwork, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so everything got done in pencil. So I've got to go back over everything with a pen. Lesson number 1, don't bother doing that again.
No. And how did you find the OCN course, and what sort of made you decide to do OCN over the others?
Yeah, so like we've already established, I didn't do a huge amount of research. So I knew that a level 3 City and Guilds was the sort of qualification that I wanted to go for. I think it was a long time ago now. So I think I kind of looked into what was the best one, because I know you don't have to be qualified in order to do this, but I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do the best that I could do. And I think I remember speaking to my the lady that runs my course, and she was saying that you can't do the City and Guilds level 3 unless you've done the 2. Am I right?
Yeah, I believe that's right.
And then she said to me, however, you can do the OCN, which is level 3 equivalent, blah, 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 and explained all the differences, that the City and Guilds is a bit more sort of exam-based situation, which does not appeal to me at all. So the OCN, it was basically like work experience. It was hands-on every single time. And yeah, it was just, really good hands-on experience.
Yeah, cool. So you qualify tomorrow, and certificate will be in the post, hopefully.
Yeah, I think apparently it'll probably be around about the October mark by the time I actually get my certificate. But yeah, fingers crossed.
Is there a nice private place in the salon for it? You've made
there is a picture frame ready.
Excellent, excellent. So I've popped over and said hello, and I've seen your setup, and it's really, really smart, and you've put a lot of time and effort into it. Perhaps you can just explain or try and describe to people what it's like. It's at the bottom of your garden, isn't it? But perhaps you can just explain what you got.
Yeah, so we've got about a 70-metre garden, and at the back end, the previous person that owned the house built, it looks like, how would you describe it? Like a barn, like a miniature barn?
Yeah, or yeah, I suppose so, like a log cabin kind of. Yeah,
it's pretty big. And on one side it's got a workshop, and then on the other side is my salon. They had it as a gym before. We've done a few alterations, but nothing major. So as you walk in, it's quite a nice space. It's not too big, but it's not too small, and everything's sort of within reaching distance, which is what I like. I've got 3 sort of little, we call them pens. I don't know where the pens came from, but we've got like 3 little pens. They're not completely enclosed. However, we will be enclosing one of them, because I've now discovered that most dogs can actually just jump out, especially those little Springadoodles. Yeah, so, and we've just got 3 baby gates on the front of them. They've each got a little bed in them and a little water bowl. And then I've got my table and some shelving units with all my gear on, I suppose. And I will eventually have a desk. It's not quite in yet. And then there's a little room at the back where I've got my hydro bath, and will eventually have a washing machine and tumble dryer and a little worktop for my shampoos and bits and pieces in there as well.
Yeah, you definitely, washing machines and stuff are quite important, aren't they? You take all your towels home and wash them.
Yeah, to be honest, we've in the workshop, the tumble dryer's in there. We haven't actually bought a washing machine yet. I'm using my brand new Bosch one, which I'm not particularly happy about. But I will be buying one just specifically for down there at some point. But unfortunately, because of the weather, the garden's kind of taken over the priority at the moment. So the salon's gone back on the back foot now.
So I see a lot of questions coming to my group about people that are looking to set up and start their own business from home. So maybe are you able to talk about the plumbing and the electrics? What kind of stuff did you have to do for that, or were they already put in?
Yeah, so fortunately, it all already had electrics, and my partner's an electrician. So that's amazingly helpful. So anything that needed tweaking, he did all that. With regards to the plumbing, we had nothing down there at all, and obviously with a massive garden, it was a bit of a challenge. However, again, partners in the trade, so we spoke to a few people, and we eventually ran water all the way down the side of the garden. It goes from one side of our house underneath the deck into the other side, all the way down the garden into the workshop, up over the top, comes down the other side, and is in a sump pump. Had half a glass of white wine. I can't say that anymore. Yeah. So and then the pump obviously pumps it all the way back to in the same direction. But it was quite challenging because we had to have the right sort of angle on it so that there was a downward flow all the way back to the drain. So it was quite a big challenge to do, but I've been assured the pump is suitable for a full-size swimming pool. So it's yeah. The stopcock thing got stuck on it the other day, so it did flood. That was really great. Yeah. Because the pump is so powerful, it's actually moving inside the actual little tank that it sits in. So at the moment, I'm having to keep my eye on it until we come up with a solve to stop that happening. But yeah, so far so good. It's all working, and it all goes back up to the main drain, and it's all been done properly, and it's all insulated, and it runs alongside our hedge. Yeah.
Cool. So it's all possible, isn't it? I think that's the main thing. Is, you look at what you've got, and there's always a solution to these problems.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it wasn't a cheap solution. However, versus digging a 4-foot trench through the garden, which didn't really appeal to me. It was kind of the next best option from that. But yeah, the pump was pretty pricey, and all of the lagging for the pipe work has actually been expensive as well. So yeah, it's not been a cheap exercise, but it's been done properly. So fingers crossed it lasts a long time.
And it will stand up in the winter as well, hopefully.
We'll soon find out.
Yeah, that's right. Considerations for the winter.
Yeah.
So you're operating from home, and I know that you've looked into the planning considerations around that. Can you just give us a little idea? Obviously, every planning, every council is different, and even though you live in Kent, you're a part of Medway Council, so your council is completely different to what I would have to do. How have you found that experience?
Confusing. To start with, it was a minefield. I don't even know how to cut this short. So originally I spoke to a lady and she said, oh, all you're going to need is a certificate of lawful use, I think. But she wasn't really sure. So I thought, okay, well, I'll apply for one of them anyway. Left it. Read the sort of terms on the guidance around the planning on the planning portal. There's like 5 or 6 points that it says, like, considerations, whether you need planning. But they're not black and white. It's down to interpretation. So I was like, well, my interpretation is no, I'm going to control the noise and I'm going to control the parking and I'm going to do all these things. But to an outsider, their interpretation could be very different. Mm-hmm. So the simple fact was I had to go down and ask. So I paid a ridiculous amount of money for a lady to come out for 10 minutes to look at the property, to give me some pre-planning advice. Right. To be fair, when she was here, she was really, really positive about the size of the garden, the boundary lines, the distance that I was away from neighbours' property, albeit gardens. I don't have any houses that back onto me. We back onto wasteland that apparently has been rejected for planning permission numerous times. So there's not going to be anything going there. And yeah, she was really, really positive about it and actually came back and sort of said, oh, I think you'll only need the certificate of lawful use. So I was like, yes, bonus, because I think that's only like £100 and something. Yeah, got the report through. Oh no, you need full planning permission for change of use. Wonderful. So I was a bit confused, I have to say. Yeah, so we haven't yet done it. It's a work in progress. I sent them some drawings, and there was a bit of toing and froing for a while because he came back and said that the drawings weren't good enough and I didn't have some of the stuff. I contacted an external company. They wanted to do the whole submission again and charge me the other 400 and ridiculous amount of money that it was. They then quoted for a rear extension with building regulations. I'm like, what is this?
I think you got someone else's quote then, didn't you?
Oh, good Lord. It was a bit of a pickle for a few days. But anyway, eventually I managed to speak to the guy on my planning permission emails and explained the situation. And he was like, right, okay, I get it. You don't need your elevations. I said, because I'm not changing anything. The building's already there. Yeah. So he basically said that my drawings were fine and they just needed to be to scale. He said, go and buy yourself some graph paper and a scale ruler and
go back to your studies.
Yeah, and then send me the drawings. And that's the stage that we're at so far. So I know I'm taking a bit of a risk, but I'd already handed in my notice and had no choice, in my view.
How do you speak to your neighbours? Do you get on with them? How have you addressed it with them? Do you send them box of chocolate?
Yeah, when we first moved in, actually on the first weekend that we moved in, my sister-in-law came over. Bill, I was telling you about this the other day. My 2 dogs are a little bit boisterous and they like to chase, and my sister-in-law brought her dog and he decided to run. So as he ran, they chased, and he actually went over the next door neighbour's fence, which my side of the fence is only 4 foot, do you reckon, Bill? About 4 foot. But the other side I live on the steepest hill ever. So the other side of this fence is about an 8-foot drop. And yeah, so this collie went straight over the fence into my next door neighbour's putting green. So that was welcome to us. We're the dog people. No, but my neighbours are actually really great. I've got one side who are totally on board with it. She's taken my leaflets. She works for an estate agent. She's advertised it on their internal intranet site, etc. I've already had one of her customers come to me. And then my neighbours on the other side are a retired couple who have got a German Shepherd. So both of which know exactly what I'm doing. I check in with them regularly. I had a very noisy dog the other day and immediately went and checked with my neighbour and just said, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad was that dog? And he went, what dog? I was like, okay, great. Fabulous.
That's good, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, the council can't have their eyes and ears everywhere. So if there's going to be some issues, it's probably going to come from someone just pointing out that what you're doing and where you're doing it. So always best people on side as much as we possibly can, isn't it?
Well, the first place I leafleted was my own road. So everybody in my road knows that there is a dog groomer here. So fingers crossed, I won't have too many issues. And in actual fact, most of my customers so far have been within walking distance and have all commented about how nice it is to have a local dog groomer. So at the moment, I've only kind of had positive feedback about where I am. So yeah.
That's good. So let's talk about getting your name out there. So how did you decide your name, the Bubbly Paw? Is there a story behind that?
A very bored lockdown day, coming up with the name and a logo, and we kind of wanted to go, as my partner's idea, we kind of wanted to go after a name that sounded a bit like a gastropub name. So yeah, I can't remember how many brainstorms we did, but literally it took us all day. I think we sat down at like 10 in the morning and by 5 o'clock in the evening we had the name. And the logo, I don't even know where I got the logo from. I think just because of the name, it kind of created itself. And then I gave Sean a bit of a rough, like, this is kind of my idea, but I didn't have the technology on my computer to do what I wanted to do. So sort of threw my idea at Sean. He came back with something. I was like, yeah, not quite right. And then the second time he sent it through, I was like, bingo, that is the one.
That's it. And he actually did mine. Or he did Emma's years and years and years ago. He actually designed the A to Z animal care logo, and I kind of pinched a little bit and just changed the wording. So sometimes it's who you know, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I used to walk home from school with Sean, so yeah, I've known them both for a very long time.
So you're called the Bubbly Paw, and you've got a really nice logo, really nice website. So that's obviously part of your advertising and getting your name out there. So what other methods have you used when you're opening up to advertise and get yourself out there?
Yeah, so initially, like I said, I've got leaflets. I had so many printed. Didn't get round to distributing hardly any of them.
How many did you have done?
God, I can't remember. I want to say it was about 2,500. I think I was just super excited at the time, and it was just like, yeah, just order them. Yeah, you don't need that many. However, it wasn't amazingly expensive. The only I think the only mistake that I made was, I think in my little head somewhere I had that I'd have them all delivered before I opened. So on the leaflet it says opening on the 1st of August. So now it's a bit like, is there any point now delivering them, because the 1st of August has clearly been and gone. But I'm like, oh well, at least they know I'm open.
Yeah. So 2,500 leaflets to scatter around the neighbourhood.
Yep, that's the one.
Let me just talk about the leaflets. Did you just go and literally post them through everyone's letterbox, or did you wait for a dog to bark or something like that, so you knew that there was your target customer?
No, I thought, I've got enough of these leaflets. I can afford to do everybody.
The whole of Medway's getting one.
Yeah. No, I used it as a good excuse to take one dog at a time for a walk. And I walked, I did my big main road here with the dogs. And then on another day, I went up to another road, and I did it on the school run, which was actually really beneficial because the amount of people I bumped into walking their dogs on the school run was fantastic. And then, yeah, I probably hit about 15 houses that at least had dogs in them because I could hear them barking and eating my leaflet. The other risk you take. But yeah, to be honest with you, the leafleting, I probably got about 4 or 5 of my customers from my leaflets who are definitely in my road. Like, I've got a lady literally 7 doors up with a schnauzer, so she started to come to me. But the best one that I actually got was on a Facebook community site. So I posted on the Walderslade and Lordswood community site. I actually did it once and I got nothing. And then the next week I thought, oh, I'll give it another shot. And literally my phone went mad. I had about 65 inquiries in the space of about 4 hours. I was at work. It was really, really quiet. So I was like, right, girls, I'll man the tills. And I literally stood behind the tills at work with my phone and my diary, booking all these people in.
Excellent.
It was a bit surreal, to be honest with you. It was like, you know, I don't know, like if anybody else on the chat has ever done this. I think it's probably a girly thing. But when you were little, you used to sit and play like doctors or something, and somebody would always be the receptionist with the diary and would be pretending to take phone calls and write little appointments down. I felt like that. I felt like this isn't real. This is just like a play moment in my head. It was very bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, you were still doing your other job, weren't you, at the time? So I suppose it was like the reality's not really struck yet. Now everyone's just like groans when that phone rings.
yeah, I know. I do. I just get nervous now. I'm like, oh God, what's it going to be?
So Rachel's just asked, is there a better way to dispatch leaflets? I was thinking of doing a post box walk, and my theory on leaflets is obviously you want to be putting them through doors where people have dogs or cats or whoever your target customer is. So I mean, it's good that it's worked, isn't it? But what I'd perhaps do with the rest of them now is put them into leaflet holders and take them to your pet shop and take them to your vets and places where you know that people with pets are going to be. Yeah,
to be honest, I did drop a big wedge into the vets the other day. They said that they don't have them on display, but they will give them out to customers if they need to, or when they feel like maybe a customer needs a point in the right direction. So that was good. And my old dog walker, she took some as well to leave at her clients, because obviously they're all relatively local. So yeah, there's other bigger ways, I suppose, of getting them out there. It just depends really on who takes them and who doesn't take them.
Yeah, I mean, Amanda has just paid the 15-year-old daughter and her friend 20 quid to put them out there. That's another good way of doing it, isn't it? Really, get them a bit of exercise and get your leaflets out there. And how did you?
There was actually a guy who posted on that Facebook post that I did, saying to me that he was like a professional leaflet deliverer. And did I want to use his services? And at that point, I was like, no, you're right. But yeah, there are people out there that will do it for you. I suppose the biggest risk is that, you know, you pay them and they chuck them in the nearest bin.
Yes. I used to do paper rounds and stuff like that, and leaflets were a pain in the bum. But I think all I'd say with leaflets is if you're going to spend money on them, you know, try and target people with dogs. So put them in places where dogs are going to be. And how did you feel about approaching people with dogs and handing them one of your leaflets? You know, there's no criticism on your haircut, but take one of my leaflets. Me and Emma used to walk around tend to them, and when Emma first started, it was like, oh, go and give that person a card. It was like, no, you go and do it. No, you go and do it. And we never actually did it.
Do you know what? For me, it's not hard because I can just talk to anybody. I don't really feel fear in that way. I'm happy to just walk up to a stranger and start a random conversation. And if they've got a dog, the first thing I do is just talk about my own.
Yeah.
And I ended up having a full-blown conversation with one guy on the street about a dog walker. We shared like the details of the dog walker, and he was new to the place. And I think for me that was fine. And then there was like mums on the school run, and I was like, oh hi, so you've got a dog there. I'm a dog groomer. Here you go, have a leaflet. I'm only up the road. I don't mind. I can be a little bit cheeky. There are some people, I think there was like one guy, I think actually, I was just about to drive off. I'd parked up and I was just about to drive off, and this couple came across the road, and I literally just sort of stuck my arm out the window and went, hey, I'm a dog groomer, do you want to take a leaflet? And he just looked at me like I was dirt and just went, no. I was like, okay, I'll have my leaflet back then.
Yeah, excellent. And what you've used Facebook, I think you have to be careful in some Facebook groups because they won't allow you to advertise. And if Facebook, certain wording, Facebook will pick up on, and they'll delete your post or put you in Facebook prison, Facebook jail. I actually had an argument with someone about this. I said there is such a thing as Facebook jail, and he accused me of it was just my opinion, and Facebook jail doesn't exist, but you can get put in Facebook jail. It is a thing.
Oh, well, I haven't experienced that yet. Is it like a Monopoly game? Do you have to pay 50 quid to get out?
No, they just ban you for a few months and then release you again. And then it's up again. Yeah, it gets serious. But Nextdoor, I think you use Nextdoor as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that actually came from I think someone on your group. Actually, I saw that somebody else had asked about how to market the business to get more customers, and someone else had commented, "Oh, I use the Nextdoor app." So I was like, I've never even heard of this. What is this? So I got on it, and I probably posted like twice in a week, which I don't think is excessive. And I didn't necessarily see the rules. And if I'm honest, I still don't really understand the Nextdoor app at all or its purpose. But anyway, I posted. I got a couple of customers from it. Then I posted a second time, and I got a Karen. So I got Karened by a guy. I think his name was Steve.
Steve.
Basically, who commented. I got Steve. He commented on there saying, is anybody else sick of this business constantly advertising? At which point I was like, oh, that's a bit mean, Steve. I've only done it twice. So I very politely, in my very sort of Victoria's Secret minded response, appreciated Steve's feedback. Thank you very much. My apologies, Steve, if you feel like this is too much. We take your feedback on board. But then I slyly put in there, however, would love to thank all of those that have been in contact with me and booked their dogs in for a groom. Thank you so much for your support of small businesses. Thought I'd just whack that one in there. Yeah. So then I got banned for 3 days.
You went to Nextdoor jail.
I did. But the annoying thing was when I went to log back on, it kept defaulting me back to the business terms and conditions, which then had a read more button that didn't work, which then had a tick button to say that you'd read it at the bottom, which also didn't work. So I was locked out of my account for what felt like ages. So I just opened a new one.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm now
I'm
now in conversation with them. Because are they originally an American company?
I don't know.
I think they're originally American based, and their requirements for their sort of signing up for a business page is absolutely ludicrous. And there's nothing on there that would apply to a sole trader. So the paperwork that they want to clarify who you are, a sole trader wouldn't have, other than a basic like bank account, and that could depend on how you've set up your bank account. I could have a bank account in my business name, which I can use, so I can do that, but there was a couple of other things that they wanted, and it's just like, we don't have that as a sole trader. And I saw a thing come up actually on Facebook about the Nextdoor app, and I commented on it saying, well, I would open a business site if only I could adhere to what you were wanting, but it's not appropriate. And then loads of people tagged on underneath me saying, same here, Vikki, I've had the same problem, I've had the same problem, I've had the same problem. So yeah, Nextdoor app, I think, would be really beneficial. There's just some admin issues of setting it up as a business.
I'm sure they'll welcome your feedback, and they'll so where do you get your main customers from now? Do you record where people find you and where they hear about you?
I don't necessarily no, I think a lot of it has just come from that Facebook Lordswood and Walderslade community group. I think then I've got a couple of people who are like friends of mine on the Facebook who have shared things. Now that I'm up and running, my Bubbly Paw page is obviously getting a lot more attention now. It's getting followers. I did notice like the people that started following weren't necessarily the people that had actually booked already. They were people that were maybe following. I had one customer and she said to me, I've been following your Facebook page for a while, and you know, they kind of like want to suss it out before they commit. Right. And then after you post a few posts and a few pictures and whatever, they're then like, oh, actually, do you know what, I think I will. So yeah, I've got some from like, oh, my daughter saw your ad on this, and oh, my daughter's seen your website, and you know, just yeah, so a real multitude of different platforms people have seen me on, to be fair. Probably the leafleting is the least that I've got, but I haven't posted that many, so I can't really grumble.
I think that's a really good point that you make about the Facebook page and people just hanging out in your page, seeing what you're about, seeing what you do, looking at your photos. And I'm a big advocate for when you get like Google review or a Facebook review to screenshot it and repost it into your Facebook page. People are watching, hanging out. This is your shop window, just like your website is. It's your shop window. It's your first impression. You know, you're building that know, like, and trust with people. And then that person has kind of proved it, isn't it? You've built that know, like, and trust up with them, and now they're ready to buy your services from you.
Yeah, and it's funny because you build that relationship without even knowing it. You know, I think she knew more about me, you know, than I ever knew about her. And yeah, it's you know, it's a nice thing. And when I posted on the Nextdoor app the other day, 2 of my customers that I've already done their dogs for then linked on to it and was like, yeah, we've used Vikki, she's really great. So you know, that's nice that you then come with a bit of an endorsement from people that have now been to you. Yeah, so word spreads quite quickly, and like I said, you get those people that follow you, you see them follow you, and you're like, oh, and then about a week later you'll get a text from someone going, oh, can I book my dog in? And you're like, oh, that name's familiar.
Yeah, that's it. We actually I created a Nextdoor account for Emma's business, and there were actually reviews left on there. So I suppose we claimed the account, a bit like you do with Google My Business, and there are actually good reviews on there already, which we never even knew about. So we sort of got a presence on there, although we don't use it to advertise.
Yeah.
So you've been open 4 weeks. Let's listen to your lessons that you've learned.
Let's get down to the good stuff.
let's have the good and the bad. You know, I don't want it to all be negative. I'm sure there's been some really good stuff as well. So let's have it all. It's warts and all.
There has. Well, so the great thing was my first week was fully booked. Before I even opened, and I'd gone a bit gung-ho. And I thought, yes, I can do 4 dogs a day. How easy should that be? Yeah. I did, however, call in some support for the first 3 days that I opened. So on day 1, I had a friend come over and help me. And on the second day, I employed my mother for 2 days. Yeah, and I overcooked it. Let's just say the first 3 days, I did not stop from like 8 o'clock in the morning through to like 7 o'clock at night. When we were still cleaning up. So it became quite apparent quite quickly that there was absolutely no way on this planet I was going to get 4 dogs done on my own in the timescales that I'd given myself. So I'd massively overestimated myself and had to give myself a good talking to and go, Vikki, that's unachievable. And I needed to slow down. So I very quickly adapted week 2. I think the first 3 days were fully booked with 4 again. Mm-hmm. But by the back end of the week, I think come like Thursday and Friday, I was like, right, okay, let's block out a little bit of this just as I can gain some control. Because I initially just massively overcooked it.
So what were you finding in the first week? What were the issues you were finding that were causing you to overbook, or the grooms were going a lot longer? Were the dogs not what you expected? What were you finding with the issues?
A combination of both, I think, to be honest with you. I think so there's probably several different things in there. One is that I'm just not the fastest groomer in the world yet. That's definitely apparent, and as much as I want to be, I just can't hone my skills to be that quick at the moment, especially drying. My gosh, drying a dog, why does it just take so long? Those paws, there's hardly any fur on them, so why do they take so long to dry? So yeah, drying, I think, was the first thing, because I think where I've been learning, there'll generally be 2 of you drying the dog, and I think for some reason I've completely forgotten that. So I kind of get halfway through and think, oh, I've got the other half to do. There's normally someone else that does that bit for me. So underestimated that. I think the other thing I underestimated was the fact that where I was learning, all the dogs are very regular. You don't get dogs in bad condition. You don't get dogs that just want to launch themselves off the table every 30 seconds. They're all very well trained in being groomed. Mm-hmm. They've all been going once a month for years. That's not the case in my first 3 weeks. So that was tricky. I think that was just it. Generally, my speed and not having dogs that are particularly well trained at being groomed and don't have table etiquette, as I now like to refer to it.
Have any manners, and maybe you were picking up the dogs which were overdue and couldn't book in with other groomers. So maybe you were picking up some of these as well, perhaps.
Yes, there's a lot of puppies out there where owners tend to think, we can wait until it's 9 or 10 months old before we get it groomed. I've had quite a few of those, which is just really challenging when you've got a dog that has just never seen a bath. They love to go and lie in a puddle, they'll go swimming, but you put them in a bathtub and it's like, what the heck is this? I had a cockapoo. I don't know if I told you about this. I had a cockapoo lady who did the typical thing of walked through my gate and went, oh, I really like her really long and I want the teddy bear cut. I'm sure we've all heard this before, right? How about 2 visits in 2 days and 6 hours in total to basically clip it off, because it was like a Rastafarian. It was matted to the skin, and I've never ever done a dog like that, because when you're learning, all my dogs were regulars and just weren't that bad. So that
who did you turn for support? Were you able to turn to anyone for support, or?
Yeah, I did. So I reached out to my teacher, and I sent her some photos, and I was like, look, my gut instinct, especially with the paws, was just telling me to go with a number 10 blade and just take it off, because there was it was like solid polystyrene, when it squeaks. it was just awful. I felt so, this dog was only 10 months old. So I messaged her. Anyway, I knew that the owner would be really gutted if I did that, and I didn't really want to have to do that to the dog either. So I persevered, and on night 1, because she brought it to me at 5 o'clock in the evening as well, which is never a great time. Wow. So I persevered until 8 o'clock, and I would not have had that dog on the table any longer. 3 hours was my absolute maximum for the dog, more and for me, I was exhausted. And I managed to get all of its sort of torso and body done. And I'd kept her informed the entire way from the minute I finished bathing that dog, and I knew how bad it was, because she'd said to me, oh, it's got a few mats in its chest. Whether she knew or not, I don't know. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. But I very quickly rang her and I was like, your dog's a lot worse than what you've said. I'm going to be a long time. This is going to cost you. And I made it very, very clear that I was happy to do it, but I wasn't going to do it in one session, and she was going to have to bring it back. So basically, after night one, I sent it home with all its body clipped quite short, with these massive legs and a lion head. So really, she actually had no choice to bring it back to me, because I sent her home with a rather silly looking dog. But the next day, she brought it back to me, bless her. She did bring it back, and she paid me accordingly, which was really good. And I still didn't send this dog home looking in the greatest of states, because I just couldn't do anything nice to it. There was no part of it that you could get looking nice, to be fair. But I said to her, you need to bring her back 4 weeks' time, but you also need to go and buy a brush.
Yeah.
And you need to start brushing your dog, because you could just clearly see that she hadn't put a brush to that dog at all.
Fingers crossed she'll be back in 4 weeks.
Yeah, she's already booked.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has already booked.
Good. And that first week, I remember discussing with you, you're like, wow, I can't believe how busy I've been. And just the very basic stuff really slowed you down. So like talking to people, talking to the customers, and onboarding process for your customers. Yeah. That was like a learning curve, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd created a beautiful client agreement form, covered pretty much everything in there. So I don't have any sort of like individual disclaimers. Everything is in there. And again, it just didn't even occur to me, even the walk from my back gate down to the salon, it's 70 meters. It takes time for me to get up to the gate, to get them in, to get them down, and then have that conversation, give a little bit of fuss to the dog, do that customer experience thing, which is in my nature because it's what I've always been taught to do. And then you're like, right, great. Can you just have a read of this 3-page document, please? 10 minutes later, you're like, right, okay, we're already 20 minutes into this groom. Fabulous. Big mistake. In hindsight, would have done that very, very differently. Obviously, we've already had a conversation around the use of Google Forms. And if I did go back to doing more than 3 dogs per day, that would have to be emailed out in advance for a signature, maybe just on the day, which I have done with a couple of customers, to be fair. But where I'm down to 3 a day at the moment, I can afford to do that. But when it comes to doing 4 dogs a day or more, that client agreement and all the paperwork and that kind of little mini interview that you do, is your dog allowed treats, any disabilities, is it fully vaccinated, what type of groom do you want, a lot of that could be done pre that moment. And once I've done a dog once and it comes back to me, obviously I won't have to go through all of that. So this is just for first time customers, and I've already had repeat customers, so I already know that process speeds up rapidly when I can just do a changeover at the gate, and then I run down the garden and get them in the bath as quickly as possible.
Excellent. And things like taking payments, you're taking cards, and all sorted with that.
So I've got a Starling bank account from feedback on your site. I got a Sum Up card reader from feedback from your site. So that's all set up, works brilliantly. Still get a lot of cash. People are more than happy to pay with cash. But yeah, the card reader's been a bit of a godsend. Just because it makes life easier, really. I'd be happy if everybody did it. Obviously, you do have to pay a little fee, but it's not horrific. But the other thing, which I did want to mention, two things from your group really that I would give anybody. My top tips: pricing. As I learned from your website, I do not have a price list. I don't have one. It doesn't exist. I have rough prices in my head for breeds, and then only once I've had a discussion and potentially been sent a photo of the dog will I give a customer a price. And it will be a from price as well, based on obviously condition of the dog and the behavior of the dog as well. I have priced my worth, I think.
Okay, you brave with your prices?
Sorry?
You've been brave with your prices by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I have been, you know, and yeah, I've had a couple of people come back and say, oh no, that's too much, or no, I was looking at getting it for this. And I haven't given in. I haven't backed down and gone, oh, okay, all right, I'll do that. Because I don't want to compromise at this stage. And I think, you know, I offer something very different to what a high street groomer would offer. And I've had a couple of customers comment on that, and that's their reason that they've come to me, is because they don't want their dog put in a crate. They don't want, you know, I just offer that bit more one-to-one. It's not so much rushed, and there's a few people that come to me for that reason.
Yeah. You all right?
Yeah, sorry, the Tesco's man's just come and I just want to make sure.
Your dog's about to go mental.
No, it's all right. I'm just making sure that my partner's actually getting the door.
Doing important things here.
I think he's there. Otherwise he won't eat tomorrow.
So you're pricing, you're being very brave with, and you're sticking to your guns, which is nice.
Yeah.
And have you had a dog in and you thought, actually, I really need to charge more for this dog than what I've thought?
Yeah, definitely. On day one, I did it was a German Shepherd cross Malamute. I mean, talk about bring a small pony into your business on day one. Yeah, I massively underestimated the job, and I massively underestimated the price. So kind of two things really. I kind of don't want it to come back, and if they do, they're going to pay almost twice as much.
There'll be a lot on you, a lot more money, and that's can be quite a difficult conversation to have. And maybe the honesty is the best policy, and say that last time your dog was here, I seriously undercharged, and it was a lot more work than I expected. So this time it's going to be X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and also because I underestimated the workload, I didn't get the dog finished.
Right.
So as a result, I then even actually reduced the price that I'd originally given them. And afterwards I was like, why did I do that? Why? So I think it was day one. I felt bad. I was a little bit like I'd lost a bit of confidence, and I was just, yeah. And since then I haven't. I've had a couple of dogs that I've not been able to finish, but it's not been of my doing. It's because of the dog's behavior. So therefore I deem that as, well, I've still given 2 hours of my time, regardless of how much work I've actually got done. So I've still charged full. But I've been honest with every single customer. I think the biggest thing that I've found is everybody has been like, oh no, you know, little Flossie, yeah, she's always been good at the groomers. We've never had any bad reports. Yeah. You know, whether that's true or not, whether the groomers told them the truth, whether they don't want to tell me the truth or not, I'm honest with everybody. I'm like, okay, so this is what happened. Yeah. This is the situation. This is how much we've managed to get done. I had a 4-month-old Malamute puppy come, and I don't think it had ever seen water in its life, and it nearly took my brand new bath off the wall.
Wow.
It nearly did itself some damage. It nearly did me some damage. The hose went everywhere whilst I was trying to get the dog to just stop like launching itself at the walls. Yeah, and basically I barely got it wet. And then I called the owner and I was like, okay, so your dog hates the bath. We've got two options. I either quit now and you come and collect your dog, or you can come back and maybe you just stay with me to see if the dog's a bit calmer. she witnessed it for herself. I didn't even touch the dog's paw with the water, and it went absolutely crazy. And she was like, this isn't going to work, is it? And I was like, no. So we conditioned the dog to being on the table and getting a little bit of a blow dry. And then I've sort of suggested that I'm happy to kind of take him back in maybe little half-hour doses to get him used to it. But whether she will or not, I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe a little bit of bathing at home, perhaps.
I did suggest that to her, yeah. But he was a big boy for 4 months old. He was massive.
Oh, excellent. You've certainly had a trying 4 weeks, haven't you? And there has been tears, unfortunately. I don't know if you want to share that experience with the listeners.
Yeah, well, some of them might already know because I think I posted on your group that afternoon. So I was doing 2 miniature Yorkshire Terriers, thought, yeah, nice and easy little job, I can do this. And I was doing the first one and I was doing its ears with a 10 and I nicked the top of the ear and I didn't spot it straight away and the dog obviously didn't react. And then I saw it and I was like, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on your group, Bill, but I did a lot of swearing. I kind of have this shit moment. And basically, I then stopped panicking. I was like, okay, Vikki, do what you need to do. You know what you need to do. So I got my clotted powder out and I got some cotton wool and I kept some pressure on it for a while. And then I took it off and I put the clotted powder on and, well, it just wouldn't stop bleeding. It would not stop bleeding. And I was like, oh my good Lord, what is going on? I practically tipped the whole bottle of clotted powder on this dog's head. I mean, there was more clotted than there was fur by the time we'd finished. But I then spoke to somebody who's on a, well, I tried calling a few people to be fair, and then I finally spoke to somebody on one of my grooming WhatsApp groups. And she sort of just reinforced what I'd already done. I bandaged this little dog's head up. And then I thought, right, okay, just calm down. I'm going to pop it in a pen. It can just sit there for a little while with it's all bandaged up. And I'll do its little brother. So then little brother gets on the table. Well, whether he sensed my anxiety, my panic, my nerves, whether he was always going to be troublesome or not, I don't know. But every time I closed the scissors, this dog flinched like you've never seen before. And I persevered and I thought at any minute now, I'm going to end up cutting this dog as well. And I just thought this is going to end up a disaster. I know my limits. I need to just stop. So unfortunately, I did have to make the awful phone call to the owner to say, well, so your two dogs. This, and you can see where this conversation is going. So you're right about Teddy. He doesn't sit still, and I can't finish him. I'm going to end up doing him an injury. And then, sorry, but your other one I have injured. I've nicked its ear with the blade. Well, the phone just went silent and I wanted the ground to just open up and swallow me. I felt absolutely horrific. But I was like, but he's absolutely fine. He doesn't even know it's happened. I've bandaged it all up. I've done all the first aid. He's absolutely fine. It looks worse than it is. I gave all the right spiel. I stayed very, very positive, even though inside I was absolutely dying. And then, yeah, she came to collect the dog. She was mortified. I was mortified. She had a little girl there with her as well. The little girl was mortified. I was just like, oh my goodness me, could this like just get any worse? And yeah, I didn't charge her for half of the groom because I felt really bad, although some of the people on your group said that I should have done, but I just couldn't. There was no way I could have done that. And off she went. And as she left, she wished me luck for the future.
Good luck.
So I'm not entirely convinced she'll be rebooking.
Have you had any follow-up with her and the dog?
Yeah, so I did ask her to message me later on in the day, which she very kindly did because she didn't have to. She said that she kind of couldn't really see how bad it was at the moment because of all the congealed blood. And I said, I'd already explained to her, you know, don't take that off, leave it there. It needs to stay there. So she took my advice. And then I texted her 2 days later And she said, yeah, he's absolutely fine, just waiting for the scab to sort of fall off. So yeah, so I'm glad I did the follow-up. I'm glad that I reacted the way I did in the moment. The way I felt for the rest of the afternoon, I never want to experience that again in my life. Because I was ready to close the door to the Bubbly Paw and say, no, this is not for me.
Did you just have the afternoon off, or did you have more booked in that?
No, do you know, I think she was a Saturday morning, so I'd only so she was the last one, so I didn't have anybody else. And then obviously I had the Sunday to sort of recover, and then I was kind of, and it was quite reassuring, because my WhatsApp group were all like, oh, you know, we've all done it, you know, blah blah blah. And then somebody on your group was like, oh my god, I only did it this morning, I've been grooming for X amount of years. And I was like, but even when you know that it can happen, and it's not like massively uncommon, and etc., it still didn't. Do you know what it was in my head? I thought she's going to go and tell everybody. She's going to go and tell everybody, and I'm going to have to change the name of the salon to Sweeney Dogs of Dargets Road.
It's going to be like, I suppose some people might weaponize it and put it onto Google reviews and Facebook reviews and stuff like that. But that customer service that you did, the follow-ups, you know, making sure everything was all right, is there anything else you could do to help? You know, this all sort of stuff that helps to sort of take the sting out of the tail in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like as well, with that 4-month-old Malamute, she texted me the next day to say, oh, he's really not himself, he's not jumping all over the furniture, etc. Did he injure himself? Well, she was there 99% of the time, so she knows that he didn't. And I just sort of said to her, you know, he had a really big day yesterday, that's really stressful for him. He's probably just exhausted, like, give it a few days, I'm sure he's fine. But I was like, if you're concerned, in a few days, like, please go and seek advice from your vet or something. Yeah.
You get blamed for everything. You know, you have a dog come in and you do a dog's haircut, and all of a sudden you get blamed for the dog's whole behaviour's change. Well, actually, it's probably quite happy that it's like a spring lamb, isn't it? They go out into the field and like jump around, but that's always the groomer that gets the blame for the change in behaviour. And it's a difficult one, isn't it? But
I warn people now. I warn owners, especially with really when dogs come in and they're super lively, and they're young and they've not had much grooming experience. I always say to them afterwards, when you get home, your dog is going to crash because it's knackered. It's just spent 2 hours fighting me. It's going to be exhausted. So don't be concerned if your dog now sleeps for a solid 8 hours, because it's more than likely going to.
Make the most of it. Things like this has happened to us. You know, normally when me and Emma are on the train to go to France, the phone will ring, and one of the members of staff, I think one of them was like, we've just cut the dog's tongue, and it's just like, oh, we were just on our way on holiday. But you know, it's the way you follow it up, it's the way you deal with it, it's the way you help the customer. You're not always going to get it right, but you've got to try your best, haven't you? So yeah, absolutely. And you've had happy times as well already.
Oh, I really have. I've had some absolute delights. I do a friend's cockapoo who is just really lovely. He's been to me twice now already, actually once just before I opened, and then I had him back today. I've sold 3 puppy packages, so I've got 3 puppies that come to me at the moment. One actually passed its puppy course today. She did it in a very condensed amount of time because she wanted to get it done before the kids went back to school. But yeah, so it passed passed her little 4-session grooming course today with flying colours. She's a lovely little puppy. I've got another one called Elmo. The lady's obsessed with like Disney and cartoons and things like that. So little Elmo is a toy poodle that when he first came to me, he looked like any sort of poodle cross. And last week was the first time we started to give him some real poodle features, and she was over the moon. She bought me a plant, and yeah, she's a really happy dog mum. Yeah, so I've got some really lovely. I've had some really lovely feedback from customers. So yeah, you know, I've had some yeah, I've had my challenges, and I've had some lovely dogs, but are very frustrating. But yeah, and I've also had some good ones, and I'm excited about doing dogs for the second time, having done them once already, because I know their behaviours, they know me, they know the salon. You can already see when they come back, there's a complete difference in behaviour on the second visit than what there was on the first. Definitely.
That's good. And those the puppy owners that you're helping at the moment, they're going to be those clients, aren't they? They're going to be with you, unless they obviously moved area, but hopefully they'll be with you for the whole of the puppy's and dog's life, hopefully.
Yeah, so the one that finished the puppy course this morning, she's already booked for the next 4 months.
Yeah. And they are going to be out there, and they are going to be your biggest fans, and they're going to be walking their dog around the roads and the streets with pride, really happy with the haircut. And whenever people stop them and say, that's a lovely looking dog, where'd you go? It's going to be, your name's going to be put out there every time, isn't it? And that's what you want.
Yeah. And you know what I found as well with the puppy packages is it was a really nice learning platform for me, because like session 1, you don't do everything, so you can kind of almost use them as a bit of a practice dog. So it was almost like, session 1 and then session 2, and on like session 1, like 2 out of the 3 had a little bit of a haircut, but I deliberately didn't do a full haircut, because otherwise what do you do on the next session? Mm-hmm. So it was really nice for me as well to have a little bit of a practice, which was great. And I learned an awful lot through that, and I've learned so much through. The other thing about like my course is that, when you've got a dog coming in, you've got, I know, Fred coming in for his groom. Well, Fred's got a card, Fred's got a profile for the last 3 years. That Fred gets a number 10 blade with a peach comb attachment, round feet, round head, blah, 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 blah. You've got it all written down. All my customers are brand new. I don't have any of that history on them. I don't know how short the owner likes. The owner can't very often tell you how short. They never know. They don't know that they want a number 10 blade with a blue comb attachment. They haven't got a clue. So it's been quite interesting and a bit of a learning curve for me to be like, okay, so actually, I start high and I gradually get shorter and shorter and shorter until I'm happy with the length. And yesterday I got a Shih Tzu Bichon cross puppy, and this thing was just like this, like fluff ball. It was like a fluffy puffer fish. I mean, this thing was like just all hair, but it was very straight. And I was dreading putting the clippers on it. I was like, oh my God, this is just going to waffle like really badly. And how is she gonna, like, what if she wants to keep it quite long? Fortunately, she wanted to go quite short, but I actually got the clippers out with her in the salon, and I did it with her. And I was like, right, okay, this is this comb attachment. How do you like this? She went, no, I want it shorter. Got the next comb attachment. This any good? No, shorter still. So I did it with her until I knew what she wanted, because I wasn't prepared to take that risk. Yeah,
it's what you said. Everything at the moment is learning, and you're going to be putting your Bubbly Paw stamp on your new dogs now, and you'll have I'm sure everyone has their own style of haircuts, and you'll get your own style, and that's what people will love. So
yeah. And then I have one more top tip that I keep forgetting to mention.
Go on.
Deposits.
Excellent.
So I have not taken a single booking so far without a deposit being paid. My deposits are generally 50% of the groom, or I round it up or down to the even number. And I have not had a single no-show.
Excellent. And what do people say? So if people are out there listening and they're thinking, oh, I'm too worried about what people might say when asking them for a deposit, what do you find the feedback's like?
To be honest with you, 9 out of 10 people haven't even questioned it. I've had a couple of people question it more in the older generation, mostly because they've never had to do it before, or they're not au fait with like online banking in order to pay the deposit. But yeah, the majority of people have been absolutely fine. And I started off explaining why I was asking for a deposit. I started off like, oh, because this, because that. And then I was like,
justifying it.
I was trying to do that. And then I was like, oh, like, this is too long-winded. I haven't got time to be texting these people all of this stuff. So now I just put, when they inquire for the appointment and the price, I just say, right, okay, the price will be £45. I've got appointments on this day, and this day. Upon booking, I require a £20 deposit. This can be paid via a bank transfer and has to be done. I generally sort of say 3 days, but it's on booking really. As soon as they say, right, okay, I want that time and that date, then I want that deposit paid by the end of that day. Yeah. So long as it's paid sort of within 3 days beforehand, I'm happy. So I had a lady this week, for example, who had messaged me. It was quite late notice. She booked the appointment. I was then like, okay, I need your details, because I think it was through Messenger and you can't see their number on Messenger. So I was like, okay, I need your phone number, your dog's name, and I need you to pay the deposit, and I'll send you the link for the payment. Didn't get back to me. So I sent her a message the day before saying, you know, if you don't pay if you haven't paid your deposit by the end of today, I'll have to postpone your appointment as I have a waiting list. I also tried to call her via Messenger. She then messaged me back, COVID, doesn't know, would be able to get back to me soon. So I literally said, if it's not paid by 6 o'clock this evening, I'll have to postpone your appointment. Yeah. She didn't pay it. I booked her appointment with somebody else today, and made my money, and just sent her a text saying, I hope you're all well. Please let me know if you wish to rebook.
Yeah, and you've potentially wheedled out a no-show there, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and I think it's definitely something, you know, I've always been open and honest, and I say on my Wednesday welcomes, we can all learn from each other, and deposits is something that me and Emma in our own business are sort of taking forward now. And new customers, if we've not met them before, they're on the phone, they pay a deposit. It's good for your cash flow, and it's good for your no-shows as well.
Yeah.
But like you said, 50%, don't take 10, 15 pounds, because people are quite willing to lose that money, aren't they?
Well, day one of opening, the lady had two dogs booked in, and she was half an hour late. And in hindsight, I should have just said to her, I can only do one of your dogs, and you're going to lose the deposit on the second one. But I didn't, and I went with it. But I genuinely think, because she had 2 dogs booked in, she'd paid a £50 deposit. If she hadn't have paid that deposit, there was no way she would have turned up, because her excuse was that she just got up late. So I genuinely believe that if she hadn't already forked out £50, there was no way she would have turned up.
No, and we do lose a lot of money through no-shows. So it's a great way to start wheedling out the people that don't want to pay a deposit, and maybe they're not the ones that we want to be working with. And Elaine's just put on here, not thought about that before, so it's a great tip. So good work.
It really, really is. I have to say, I've had no real rejection to it. It's great to see that money coming in. I still balance my books at the end of the week without the future deposits. Mm-hmm. So they don't account if they've been paid, but they're not coming till next week. They don't account in this week's finances. But yeah, it's really nice. And also what I also offer is, if haven't quite got there yet with many people, one person's done it so far, is rolling the deposit over to the next appointment. So they pay like their £25 deposit. They then come and pay the balance, but rather than pay the balance, they pay for the full groom. They rebook and roll the deposit over to the next appointment. I've had one customer actually asked me if she could do it, because she saw it on my website, because I forgot to completely even mention it. She was like, oh, I saw on your website that you roll your deposit over. And I was like, yeah, I do actually. Yeah, you're quite right. I do. Excellent. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, be careful what you say about your books, because Vicky's watching at the moment. So she's the one that's going to be picking them up, isn't she?
Yes, yeah, I actually was having a chat with Vikki. So I received my P45 yesterday. Never had one of them I've never had one of them in my life. But no, yeah. So Vikki's been advising me for a long time. Anyway, we had a great chat back when I first moved into this house. So that was probably nearly 4.5 months ago. We had a great chat about the business and some of the ideas that I had, etc. And then I did her 1-day course, went on that was really useful. And then since then it's kind of just been the odd text message. So she helped me with my sole trader registration and self-assessment, set up with the HMRC. So I sent her some pictures today of those letters because they've come through. And now apparently she doesn't need anything from me until next April, so that's great.
I think she'd just say, just keep your receipts. Keep your receipts all.
Yeah. So I'd love to just I've got to show you guys this, right? Because this is my household. So obviously my partner is self-employed as well, right? So this is our filing.
Wow.
Hang on. That's my filing system.
Where's his? His above yours, is it?
No, that's everything.
No.
Yeah, because obviously where we've moved into the house and we've just done all of the work, every day the receipts just get chucked in a cupboard.
Right, so it's your mission, isn't it? Get another box file and a couple of envelopes.
Well, we had a shredder arrive today.
No, don't shred them. Vicky's saying we're having words.
No, I tell you, hang on, Vikki, hang on. I thought she couldn't make it. She texted me to say that she wasn't coming. No, to be fair, Vikki, I've got your book and this is fantastic. Look, there's a receipt in there already.
Excellent.
I've got them all filed under the right month. That's just like household and salon big expenses. That's like our 50 million trips to B&Q because we should genuinely have shares in B&Q. Yeah.
Good work.
We've definitely spent a lot of money in B&Q.
But you're now free of your job and you're in charge of your own destiny. So that's probably one of the nicest things about it, isn't it?
Well, I'm very excited that I don't have to work bank holiday Monday. Oh.
Yeah.
And I don't think the novelty of being home every evening has actually kicked in yet, because where we've obviously just not that long ago, 4 months ago, bought a new house. We've got so much to do. We've been decorating. I bought a house that needed nothing doing to it. So we've decorated it from top to bottom. We ripped out the kitchen and put a new one in because it didn't need it doing, but we did it anyway. Then we built a dog grooming salon. My partner's built all the internal bits of his workshop. And we just don't sit down until 10 o'clock at night sometimes. So not appreciating my evening because we don't get to sit down until late. But actually had to put makeup on for this tonight.
It's nice to look at your bank account and just think, actually, I generated that money.
Yeah, and it's really nice when those little pings come through to say that someone else has paid their deposit, or just looking yesterday. I had a banging day yesterday. I did 5 dogs yesterday. Wow. But they weren't all full grooms, and some of them were full grooms but easy. I did 2 pugs. I mean, how long does it take to do 2 pugs? But yeah, so I did, I think yesterday was my best money day, and it was from actually not doing full grooms. It was from just doing small, quick, easy little jobs, but charging good money for them.
Excellent. Onwards and upwards. And teeth cleaning, you looking at that?
Yeah. Yeah. So
have you got it out of the box yet?
Yeah. Yeah. So so teeth cleaning. So I've been desperately, my partner moans at me every single day. That's why I grimace when you say it.
That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Teeth cleaning is definitely something that I want to do. I think for me at the moment, I'd just like to be able to finish a groom. So once I can finish a groom confidently and I'm happy with the outcome, then I will absolutely definitely start adding on teeth cleaning, especially to like my puppies, because I think that's a perfect add-on for the younger dogs to start them early. I'm desperately not succeeding very well in doing my own dog's teeth once a day like I'm meant to be.
No.
I did her today. All she wants to do is eat the toothbrush. So it's so I'm a bit curious if I can't even get a dog to hold its face still whilst I take off its eyebrows. How on earth am I meant to clean its teeth? I mean, you know, I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah, definitely worth doing. Start slowly, practice on your friends' dogs, and then start introducing. Yeah. And you'll see your daily takings again increase and maybe double again with just clean.
Yeah. So. I just don't know where I'm going to fit that extra time in at the moment. I need to speed up first.
Yeah. Walk before you can run, but definitely get there.
Yeah. Oh, I've tripped up a few times already because of that. So.
Right, it's been great talking to you. Has all the shopping been put away yet?
Let's hope so.
Let's hope I've kept you on the Zoom call long enough for all the shopping to be put away.
Yeah, might have even done hoovering.
It's been lovely talking to you, and we've had a lot of people watching all throughout the call. So hopefully, and already they're picking up on your top tips around deposits. So you know the whole motto of this group and the ethos is as long as we help one person, that's all I'm happy about. So you know we've definitely impacted on one person there about taking deposits, and that's awesome. So it's been
fabulous.
Listening to your journey, and thank you for sharing all the highs and lows and talking about your journey. So it's been a nice chat.
And thank you to you, because you know I know that it turns out that we may have known each other a long time ago, but I didn't know it was you when I joined this group, and this group has probably been the biggest education in terms of support and setting me up with some of the things like the deposits and charging my worth and not having a price list, because the first thing I looked at was, okay, what am I going to charge? And you and your group actually made me brave enough to say, actually, I'm not going to have a price list. So, you know, thanks to you and all your participants on your group. I know there's a couple of ladies that have given me some moral support when I did the miniature Yorkshire Terrier. So yeah, no, really appreciate all of you guys.
Awesome. That's what it's all there for, isn't it?
Yeah.
So time to say goodbye, and thanks a lot.
Yes. No, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Make sure you read through all the comments on the video as well.
I will. You might have to show me where to find it, but yeah.
I'll take you in it.
I'm not very good with computers. It's shocking.
Okay, I'll take you in them so you can see them.
Fabulous.
Take care.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you later, Bill.